Okay, so this
Maybe next time I'll think before he cheats.
was part of the hearing today about whether the president could deploy the National Guard in Chicago. What? We could get a ruling in just a matter of hours at about 4:30 Central Time, but a couple of the arguments that really stood out in the arguments today. Government made the claim, quote, the president's judgment is unreviewable, which would be huge, not only in this case, but in all cases, because it could infer or intimate that the president's decisions could never be reviewed, even by the Supreme Court, and not just President Trump, but any sitting U.S. president. The state of Illinois said that the government's case has, quote, a lack of honest devotion to the public interest. It was brought up that the government would need to prove, or doesn't need to prove, that there is an inability for local law enforcement to execute the law. Therefore, it would necessitate federal assistance or a federal deployment of some kind. She even asked the question to the state of Illinois, does the president need to show you or prove to you what he is looking at as the basis for the deployment? But then she asked the government if the conflicts that they've seen in Chicago were caused by the federal agents, and asked the government if it matters that possibly the tensions are caused by the federal agents, and the government said no. But then it raises the question, is the thinking that the federal agents are causing the conflict and therefore needed to resolve the conflict? Or do you resolve the conflict by withdrawing the federal agents? The Department of Justice said no, and even if that were the case, that it wouldn't matter, because what they're seeing is an unusual and sustained violence against federal personnel and federal property. The judge said she understands the severity and the seriousness of the threats because she started getting threats 10 minutes after being assigned the case. But then there was this moment where the government was trying to provide some examples of the violence, saying that there were slashed tires and keyed cars. And then the judge said, that sounds a lot like the Carrie Underwood song. Just to be clear, this isn't a comprehensive review of the presentations and the arguments, because I'm not a lawyer, so I'm only sharing the parts that I caught and that I thought were interesting, but there was a whole lot more. And again, we could be getting a ruling as early as 4:30 this afternoon. And I'll be watching because I'm a nerd.